I'm Sonia from La France Designs. We're going to be cooking tonight. Going to a bourbon tasting later this evening. So we picked up this bourbon. It's called Woodford Reserves. It's Distillery Select. We haven't tried it yet, but we're hoping we win because there's always a contest. So to go with our bourbon tasting, I'm going to be making a kind of play on beef carpaccio, but on a crostini, on garlic bread, but instead of butter, we're going to be using just olive oil with a little garlic crushed in it, brushed on our crostini, and our rosemary encrusted, really nice beef tenderloin. So I got this really lovely sourdough French bread baguette from Randall's in the grocery section. Cut our lovely French bread baguette at an angle so that you have pretty little slices. And once you get this all sliced up, put it onto a cookie sheet. We're going to prepare our olive oil for our crostinis now. And just take your 2 cloves of garlic, smash them to peel them. That should pop right out. That one didn't get smashed. There it goes. Gotta be aggressive with the little suckers. Just take and chop it all up. I want it like nice and fine. You can add more or less garlic or no garlic and just put olive oil if that's your preference. You just adjust it to how much garlic you like. I like garlicky. And I also like my garlic smashed. So go ahead and put it in your little container. And add some olive oil, about 2 to 3 tablespoons. A little salt and pepper. I like pink Himalayan sea salt. And then just take your pastry brush, swish it around. And now we're going to move the garlic bread over in front of us, and we're going to paint the garlic and olive oil mixture on top of it. Don't worry if you don't get chunks of garlic on every piece. The garlic will actually just perfume the oil enough that that won't matter. And so just spread it on there. You don't have to be neat. It doesn't have to be pretty. And as soon as you get it on all the pieces, then you're going to just take it and you're going to put it in your preheated 350-degree oven for 5 to 7 minutes. Don't forget it. You don't want burnt bread. You just want brown and toasted bread. So now we're going to make our balsamic reduction. We're going to pour in about a cup of balsamic vinegar into our measuring cup. Basically, you're going to cook this till it reduces in half and coats the back of the spoon. It'll be thick and sticky. See the nice color in that? And no caramel added. So put it into your thing and just let it cook until it's reduced. And you can scrape the last of the vinegar off because the balsamic is thick. This will take a little while. Keep in mind vinegar is kind of stinky when it's boiling, but it'll taste really good and be nice and sweet. So next we're going to be making our blue cheese sauce. So I got a really nice Danish blue cheese, and you're going to just break it up into your pot into little chunks. It's kind of messy and sticky. You want to wipe your hands off after doing that. About a tablespoon and a half of horseradish. And 2 tablespoons of milk. You want to be sure not to have your cheese melt and get too hot and break. So you want to just do it like on a medium heat. Let it get to a simmer. And then once it reaches a simmer, you're going to turn it down to low until all the blue cheese chunks are melted. So once your cheese and mixture is completely melted and smooth, there's no more chunks from your blue cheese, turn your heat off and add 2 tablespoons of sour cream. You don't want to do that while the heat's on, or your sour cream will break and it'll get gritty on you. Sorry, I got sour cream on my finger. Once you get it all incorporated, set it aside to the back of your stove. As it cools down, it'll thicken up and it'll make a nice cream for the bottom of your crostini. So we're gonna start preparing the seasoning for our lovely tenderloins. We're gonna start with a couple sprigs of rosemary. Just take your fingers and pull the rosemary off backwards. Just 'cause it's kind of like a pine tree where the leaves will go off backwards. It has such an amazing smell. So I like to do something slightly different. I like to take my salt and grind it and just put a whole bunch of salt into my rosemary before I cut it. It helps the rosemary oils go into the salt itself, so when you coat your meat, it actually adds flavor and makes the meat more flavorful than if you just salt and do it all separate. So just take and just chop. All you want to do is, if you have a knife like this, just rock it. And just chop it up till it's super fine and mixed with the salt. It takes a little bit of time, but you can do it. So once you get your rosemary and salt blend mixed super fine like this, you're going to take pepper and you're going to grind it into there. I like to grind pepper fresh. You can use pepper already ground, but I like the taste and the texture of fresh ground pepper and how coarse it is. And you're just going to, for my grinder, it's like 30 sweeps, but just salt and pepper to how much pepper you like. Take your knife, mix it in. Now you're going to take your steaks and you're just going to coat them. First, you want to make sure you have enough for both of them. And then you're going to actually just press them. And you want to really smush those herbs into that steak, because they won't come off as easily when you're cooking them if you smush it. So kind of just squish it. Your hands are going to get icky. They always do when you're cooking. Don't worry about it. And I know I have a few friends that hate getting their hands icky. All right, so let me go rinse my hands off and then we'll start the stove. So we're ready to cook our steaks. We've preheated a pan. You want it to be really hot. I'm using a seasoned cast iron pan. One of the ways you can tell your pan is hot is just toss some water on it. If it does that, it's hot. So you're going to want to put a little olive oil in your pan. And then take your steak and put it down in the olive oil. You're not cooking these all the way through. They are going to be almost raw in the middle, really rare. You're just browning the outside. So you want to keep your pan at high. And you want to just brown them. So a minute or two, watch the time if you have a clock on your stove, just a minute or two. Then when they're a little brown like that, you just flip it over. You do the same thing for all sides and it'll be brown all the way around. You just keep rotating and flipping it as you go. If you want it real done, this is not the dish for you, and tenderloins probably aren't the meat for you. So just like turn it up on its edges. It's super easy. Supposedly with the bourbon we're having, this should be a good pairing. We're having, again, the Wardsburg Reserve. I have to look at the bottle because I can't remember it. Kentucky with bourbon. And they say that the fruit is what determines what you should eat with your bourbon. So say if you have an 80 proof bourbon, it would be something lighter like cheeses and fruit and nuts and things like that. The higher your proof goes on your bourbon, since this is 90 proof, meats go with it. And then when you get into the 100 and above proof, those go with desserts and more heartier, thicker, stay on your tongue stuff or aperitif type bourbons. I found that interesting. I looked it up because I knew nothing about bourbon. But I found all that interesting things to find out about it. So look, the nice color that's showing up on these, they're getting a little brown, but you're not really cooking through. You're just browning. That's why the heat is so high. So that golden right there, that's the color you want to see. You want it to have a nice golden brown and just have that color. And once you get to that color, they're ready. So tenderloins have rested. You want to cut them on the cross grain. So stand them up and take your knife and try to cut as thin as possible. You want this to be paper thin cuts. Sometimes it helps to take your steak after you finish doing it and put it back in the freezer and partially freeze it. That will help you enable to get super thin slices. And now we're ready to build our crostini. We're going to take our sauce. It's nice and thick, and we're going to put it down on the crostini. Then we're going to take a bit of meat, about this big, and put it on top. And once we get that done, we're going to go to our balsamic vinegar, and we're going to just drizzle it over the top. Set it on your platter nicely, and then you're going to take a little bit of green onion, chop it up real fine, and sprinkle it over the top. And that's all it is. Here's our finished plate of our hors d'oeuvres. We're ready to go to our party. Thank you for watching our very first video on lafrancedesigns.com. Let's go taste some whiskey.